What's going on? This is Ryan with Automatic Comics. And what we're going to be going over here is a follow up to that video I put out yesterday about this CGC reholdering or grading scam that seems to be going on. So I found a couple more, so I wanted to put this out there. Now, the interesting thing with this one is that I actually found a different type of scam that it appears is being done. So it's not just one. It's not just this reholdering. One of them I'm going to talk about is a reholdering one that I found. Another one is a different type of scam. It was a scam I was aware of. I've heard of before, but I hadn't actually seen that in these books. But now, pretty sure I have. So stay tuned. Let's check these out. All right, so before we get started, please remember to hit that like button and hit the subscribe button if you'd like to see more content like this. So appreciate everyone that has watched the prior video, liked the video, commented, all that kind of stuff. This, to me, is one of the biggest situations that's been going on with comics. I know Mickey mentioned this on his video too, for years, really since I've been back in comics. I mean, this is a pretty serious issue that we really need some type of resolution with. But in the meantime, all we can really do is try to identify some of these books that have this that appear to have some kind of like fraudulent issue going on with them. All right, now before we get into this, I feel like there has been some confusion still on what it seems like is going on here. There are definitely some comments that I had in that last video where there were some questions about this. And so at least for what appears to be going on with these books that we're talking about, this is the post that was originally done by the 99 Newsstand. He's the one that originally brought this to everyone's attention. Then there have been a bunch of other videos that have been going out about this. We've got a huge forum post on the CGC forums where people have definitely been digging into this. It's been kind of interesting. I've noticed Go Collect has been really, really slow. And so I imagine a lot of people are digging through there looking for pictures, that kind of stuff. But basically, the short of it appears to be that what the scam is that the person purchases at least in this case here, this is an Amazing Spider-Man 252. They buy an Amazing Spider-Man 252 9/8 newsstand. Then they buy a Mark Jewelers version of that same book, but in a lower grade. Maybe it's like a 9/4 or 9/2, something like that. Then what they do is a little bit unknown, but it's probably one of two things. They are either kind of cracking open the top of the case. This is what a lot of people I think are thinking is probably happening right now, and pull out the label of each book. And then they take the label from the 9/8 newsstand and put it in the case with the Mark Jewelers. Then they take that book and they send it into CGC for a reholder. And I'm guessing it probably damages the case a little bit to get that label out. And so they're sending it in for a reholder. It fixes that damage to the case. And while they're doing it, they tell them, hey, by the way, you missed the Mark Jewelers that's in here. They can kind of like see from the side probably that the Mark Jewelers is in there. It's a little thicker. You can see the black from the pages. And they go, okay, it was a 9/8. We missed it. They reslab it. They give it the 9/8 Mark Jewelers. The reason they do that is that the 9/8 Mark Jewelers sells for like $15,000. The 9/8 newsstand sells for like $2,500. And so you're basically turning a $2,500 book into a $15,000 book. Then, and I think this is where maybe some people are getting confused, what happens with the other book? So the other book, you now have a book that is a 9/8 newsstand that is a 9/8. So you fully crack that book out. You maybe repress it, something like that. You send it back into CGC for a normal grade. And so then you kind of hope you still get the 9/8 back. But even if you don't, you've got, 12 grand in profit or so on that other book. So you don't really care that much. And when you get that one back, you resell it. And so you just get your money mostly back out of the original. You make all your profit on the one that you resubmitted for the label change. That is the theory of what's going on there. The other possibility is maybe they're cracking like the bottom of the case and they're sliding out the inner well of the book and they're putting the Mark Jewelers, the lower grade one, in the case with the 9/8 label. One of those two things is what appears to be going on here. And the reason we are pretty sure that's what's happening is because the Mark Jewelers ends up having the exact same serial number as the one that was not a Mark Jewelers before. And so the only way you're retaining that serial number is if you are resubmitting the book for a reslab. If it gets regraded, if it's being graded, you're going to get a completely new number. And so this is why we think that is what is happening with these books. Now, the other reason that it was originally able to be identified what was going on here is these books looked very different when you started looking at them close. There were flaws in the corner of the Mark Jewelers, the new Mark Jewelers that weren't in the old image, and the wrap was a little different, that kind of stuff. So that's what really tipped people off, but that's why it has the same serial number. The other book is just going to go in some other submission that they send to CGC with a bunch of other books. I mean, who knows? They've got a whole bunch of scam books. They're sending them. They're taking those that they know are 9/8 and they're sending them all in. Maybe they do a 9/8 pre-screen and they send all those in, do a 9/8 pre-screen on these, and like Amazing Spider-Man 300, Amazing Spider-Man 238. Those are a lot of the types of books that we've been seeing with this. So that's kind of what's been going on there. Now, what I wanted to do was I started looking through some of the other sales from this eBay store. And so we talked about the Hulk 181 in my last video. And so if we scroll down, and if you want to, if you want to find these, it's not that hard. You just look for sold listings on eBay, search like an Amazing Spider-Man 252, 9/8 Mark Jewelers, look at the sold listings, you can find these. And so then you can see the full list of them if you want to investigate some of these yourself. Because I don't have time to check all these books. But if you want to investigate some of these yourselves, that's how you can do it. If maybe you own one of these books, that's how you can do it. But we scroll down here, and here's the 9/0 Hulk 181 that we talked about in the last video. There was another Hulk 181, this one right here, an 8.5 that sold for $6,211. So I thought I would just do a little searching with this one as well. And so this is that book. And so what you can do with at least the thing that's helpful a little bit with these books like the 9/0 Hulk 181 and this 8.5 is that they actually have flaws. That's what makes the 9/8s and the 9/6s extremely difficult, because the flaws are very small, hard to make out on the screen. You actually are really depending on miswraps to try to identify those. But with these, it's a little bit easier because you have very defined flaws that are like, I think I said in the last video, like a fingerprint for the book. So here's that 8.5. And we can see, some of these flaws that are along the spine. And actually what we can do to get an even better picture is if we go over to CGC, we can look up that cert number. So we've got this cert number here, 427-569-79008. Type that one in here. We look up that book. And now we get a nice high resolution image of this book, and we can very clearly see the different flaws that are there. You've got this one by his foot, you've got this one between the Arrow and Hulk, you have two very clear spine ticks right by Wolverine's claw, then you've got one more right by this chain, you've got this little miswrap, that kind of stuff. So those are the types of things that we'd be looking for. Now, the other thing that we've talked about in the prior video was that what it seemed like, at least in most cases, I was saying they were switching out either the label or switching out the book. I don't think that's what happened with this one. I think this is a completely different scam. This is a type of scam I've actually heard about before. And so with this one, let's see, let's look up 427-567-90008. So if we go down to Hulk 181 and let's see, we go to an 8.5 here. So I got to expand that there. And we search for that serial number, and we find it here. This is that sale from October 17th. So what you would find with that other scam is you would actually find two records for that sale. So you would find one that happened maybe 3 months ago for maybe it would be like an 8.5 in this case. This is what we saw with the 9/0. We would see an 8.5, and then you would find this other one. And when you go and check Go Collect, where you can see all the images of these books, the images wouldn't match. And that's how you'd know something was wrong. With this one, there's only one sale. But I decided to still try to find this book on Go Collect. And when you go to Go Collect, you can search for a 8.5 qualified. I figured it was probably going to be around that. So I started with an 8.5. I figured that was the best place to start, that it would likely end up an 8.5 universal. And so I searched for an 8.5, and I went down, and I found this book. And so this was a book that sold on June 26th. And if we go to GPA, you can find this too. just because I know people were wondering about like the pricing and that kind of stuff. We find this book here, sold on June 26th, and it was missing page 10. Sold for $2,000. You can see that it was a best offer here, so you don't get the actual price. It was actually for $2,000. And now the issue here is why I don't think that this one would have worked with the label swap or anything like that. Is this is an older case. This is a book that was graded a pretty long time ago. It's different style of label. It would throw off all kinds of alarms. So what we can do, and I know it's sometimes with StreamYard, it's a little hard to get the resolution that we want on some of these images. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make it a full screen here. So hopefully it makes it a little bit easier to see. But if we start comparing this CGC image with the one for this Hulk, you can see it's got the same flaws again. We've got this miswrap, and I'm not as focused on the miswrap because I think they could potentially press the book, that kind of thing, in this specific case. But we can see we've got these two spine ticks right at Wolverine's claw. Right here, we've got the two spine ticks right at Wolverine's claw. Then we have one spine tick right at the chain. Here, we have one spine tick right at the chain. Now, if we start going up, we see we have that one spine tick between the arrow, inside the arrow here. If we go up here, we've got the one spine tick in the arrow. We have one spine tick between Hulk and this arrow. We've got one spine tick between Hulk and the arrow. And here we've got this one spine tick next to his leg. Here, there we go. We've got this one spine tick right next to his leg. Now, if you want to see these, you can, go and find these on GPN Go Collect and do a closer comparison if that's what you want to do. But this makes you go, okay, so how is this one done? So there's another type of scam that's out there. And I hate that this stuff exists. Like, it drives me nuts that this type of stuff is done. But what this person likely did was they bought this book, and you see it's got 10th page missing. So then what they did is they went and found another copy of Hulk 181. It's going to be a lower grade copy. And they look for one that has staple holes that match with this one in placement and a similar page quality. And then they'll swap that wrap into here. So now it becomes a complete book, and it actually is a normal submission to CGC. That's why you don't actually end up with the two serial numbers. And so what's being done with this specific case here is, I think that this book, and so, this one right here, 42756790008, has a married wrap that was not caught by CGC. And, the person, I'm sure they found one where you have the page quality that matches and the staple holes that match, and try to make it as hard as possible to identify that kind of stuff. But I think that is what happened here. I think this is a case that's a little different than the other one. And so it just shows you that this is not just one type of scam that's being done. There are other scams that are being done as part of this. Like, this person's doing lots of different stuff to rip people off, to steal from people. And this one is the type of scam where they swap in the, a married wrap. And so if it was like missing a Marvel value stamp, they'd do the same thing. And so, yeah, I mean, and you can see like there's this little white mark right here on the end of the arrow, little white mark here right on the end of the arrow. I mean, that is one of the great things about comics like this, is that you do really have these very identifying marks, these fingerprints for the book. And so, like I said, this is a different type of scam, but it is the same seller. And so it's not just this swapping out labels or, swapping out books inside the case. I think it is also this type of scam where they're actually marrying in wraps and that kind of stuff. Now, the other thing that, just so that you're aware, that because I'm, fairly certain that this was an actual submission that this user did, if you've ever gone to CGC's site and you look up these cert numbers, the way these cert numbers work is that this is all tied to a single submission. And so the way that you can see the other books in the submission is you just change this number at the end here by 1. And so I don't know if this is the last book in the submission. Let's see. Yeah, it was. Okay, so that was the last book in the submission. So let's drop it to 7. And we just start to see all these same types of books that we saw on that page. We've got a Hulk 340, 9.6. We've got a ASM 238, 9.4. We have, at number 5, we've got another ASM 238, 9.8. Here we've got an ASM 194, 9.8 newsstand. Then we have a Fantastic Four number 1. What's this? This has got to be a Golden Record reprint. Oh yeah, okay, Golden Record reprint, 6.0. And so like some of these might be legitimate submissions. They could be part of a legitimate submission, but it's the fact that a lot of these books here, we've got a Secret Wars 8. A lot of these books, they're the same types of books. Like here's a 9.8. I didn't check if that was the same one or not, but a lot of these books are the ones that we've been seeing on this page. And the reason why we see these types of books, my speculation, why we see X-Men 266, Amazing Spider-Man 300, ASM 238, Hulk 340, New Mutants 98. I mean, the reason you are seeing those types of books is if we go to the census, there's 25,000 copies of Secret Wars 8 graded. You're hiding in the volume. Like that's why you're doing it with these books. You're hiding in the volume. You're hiding in the fact that, in GPA, there are 900 sales in a year of some of these books, or 500 sales in a year. In Go Collect, there's that many sales. You've got to dig through so much stuff that it's really hard to find and identify these. And it's just hiding these types of fakes in there, or not really fakes. They're still real books, but hiding these fraudulent books in there. And so just something, if this is something that you want to dig into further, this is one of the ways that you can, look for these types of books. Now, the other one that I wanted to talk about, and this one, I thought this one was interesting. So this is this X-Men 266, sold for $1,680. So we've got this book right here. So $1,680. Now this one, if you search for that, you're going to find 2 cases for it. So X-Men 266, the serial number, let's find that. So we're going to look in the 9.8 newsstand and find, paste. I always forget. I got to expand that. And so we've got 2 records here. This is the standard type of thing that we were seeing before. So we got 2 records. Oddly enough, this one record for $760. This is the red flag right here. You have this really low sale. I mean, going for $1,300 less, $1,700 less than these other sales around it. And then all of a sudden it sells again 5 months later or 4 months later for $1,680. Something was clearly wrong with this, but because these are eBay sales, we can't see the images in GPA. So what we're going to do is we're going to go over to Go Collect. We're going to look up X-Men 266. You can see there's a bunch of different versions of it. You've got newsstand, the regular, Mark Jewelers insert, that kind of thing. So you'd think we would look for this in the newsstand. And the 2 sale dates for this were July 16th, 2023 and December 5th, 2023. So if we go to the 9.8 and we scroll down to July 6th, there's no sale. We have a July 2nd sale. We have a July 30th sale. Now, if we go up to the December 5th, we do have the sale. This is the sale from that listing. It's got the same number, everything like that. So then I was like, did this person actually swap this into a direct case? And let's find out. I think you know the answer if I'm saying this. So we go to the direct case and we scroll down here. We go to 9.8, and the 9.8 directs, they sell all the time. So you're going to have to dig a little bit further. I think it was back on like the 5th or the 6th entry in here. Yeah, so here we are on the 6th entry, and we go down to July 16th, and there were actually 3 9.8s. It's not this one, it's not this old label. And it's this sale right here, and we can see it's got the same serial number, 212-0143-023. But when we scroll down, here it has Spider-Man's face. It's the direct copy. So this is the case of the other type of fraud. This is the one where the person is either swapping out the label or swapping out the inner well, and they are taking, this book here. And just to make sure you see, it's the same number, 212-014-3023. It's got the exact same number. They are taking what is likely a lower grade newsstand. Maybe it's a 9.4 or 9.6. They don't want it to be way outside of that range, because then it will throw up red flags. So it's probably like a 9.4 or 9.6. They're swapping that with this one. And you can see, like, what's the price difference? It's $760 for this one, and this book was $1,680. This isn't making as much money as some of these other scams that are out there, but it's still, like, probably after fees and all this kind of stuff, like $500-600. And so that is just an example of one of these other scams that's out there. So this one, it stuck out so much more to me that it was just, I mean, it was so blatant. Like, it wasn't even trying to hide the fact that it was a newsstand to a newsstand. It was just, direct addition to a newsstand. And, that's the thing. Like, this is the type of book where it's going to be near impossible. I mean, maybe somebody will find it if they spend enough time to find this original sale, if it's even in there. And it's just because you're probably looking for like a 9.4 X-Men 266 over the last 5 months. And there's just so many sales. There's so many sales to try to find this. Now, this has a pretty unique miswrap over here. Maybe you'll find it, but I mean, that's why, I think that these are the books that are being used. They're hiding in the volume, like I said. So these are the other two instances that I came across. Like I said, if you want to find these listings, you can look them up on eBay, search for sold listings. Then you can go and find all of, these books that have sold, and you can at least check and see if one of them is yours. Now, based on how this scam seems to work, some of the times, at least the label swapping one, it means that a lot of these might actually be legitimate 9.8s. If he is sending these back in to get regraded to get that 9.8 for that one that he, swapped the book out from, then, I mean, a number of these might actually be legitimate 9.8s or legitimate 9.6s. And you're not actually getting something that's not representative of it. But we don't know. And we know there are definitely ones in here that aren't correct. And the ones that I'm aware of that have been clearly identified are this Amazing Spider-Man 252, the Mark Jewelers, the New Mutants 98, Mark Jewelers, then this one that I just showed you, the X-Men 266, the 9.8 newsstand. And then when we go down to the Hulks, the Hulk 181 9.0, and the other one that I just showed you, the Hulk 181 8.5. So those ones, at least we know, are not representative of what's in the case. Unfortunately, we probably won't know for sure at all what is real or not. It would have to come from CGC. Like if CGC has this user's submission accounts, and I mean, it's pretty easy to see. Like, I mean, I just showed you like this. We can see exactly these submissions. We know that's where these submissions came from. CGC knows where these submissions came from, and they can see which user is tied to these. If they wanted to, I'm pretty sure CGC could generate a list, like a spreadsheet, of every single book that this user has sent in. And maybe they could focus that on recases. But like I said, with the Hulk 181, I think that's a married rap. That means there's married raps out there too that are masquerading around as blue labels. And I know there are people out there that marry tattoos into ASM 238s. I'm sure that's probably some of those ASM 238s as well. Like that type of stuff is, I mean, in my opinion, it's disgusting. Like, you are not scamming CGC. You are not tricking CGC. You are scamming other collectors. You are stealing from other collectors because they are not getting what they think they are getting. And I think that's probably what a lot of people think when they're doing that kind of stuff, that they're getting one over on CGC. That's not what's happening. You're not getting one over on CGC. You're screwing everybody else that's out there that's spending their hard-earned money on these collectibles and expecting to get something based on the grade, on the label, all of that, and it isn't. And so I think that everything that this person has sold needs to be brought into question. And I do really think that some type of spreadsheet or whatever that's searchable or something, CGC could create that if they wanted. And they should be putting that out there and allowing people to search it. I think it's, I mean, we have no idea how far back these sales go. I mean, I doubt this, just started. So I think that this is something that really, really needs to be dug into in order to regain confidence in what's being delivered out there. Because I mean, clearly I'm a big fan of CGC. I like CGC books. I like the process. I like the service, all that kind of stuff. But I mean, I'm like everybody else. Like I also am a collector. I have books I collect. I need to trust what's in those cases. So I'm just going to leave it with that. Hopefully CGC sees these videos, all this kind of stuff that's out there, and takes some definitive action, makes some type of announcement, something like that, because uh, it just seems to be getting worse and worse with what people are finding. I'm sure there's a bunch of other stuff out there that people have found on the forums and all that, but yeah. Hopefully you enjoyed this video. Hopefully this helps some people out, gives you a way to kind of investigate this some yourself. Cause I mean, I can't look all these up myself. I still have time to do that. But if you did enjoy this, please hit that like button, subscribe button, notification bell, all that kind of stuff. I've got more videos over here. If you'd like to watch some of my other videos, subscription button right here. If you'd like to subscribe to the channel, I would really appreciate it. And I will see you in the next video.